Hello and welcome. Today, I will take you on a whispered journey through time, exploring the lives of 10 extraordinary leaders who have shaped history with their vision, strength, and unwavering spirit. From ancient empires to modern nations, these figures rose to prominence and left an indelible mark on the world. In this quiet yet powerful journey, we'll delve into what made each of these leaders truly unique. Our journey begins with Alexander the Great, the fearless conqueror whose empire stretched from Greece to the edges of India. Known for his unyielding ambition and unmatched military genius, Alexander transformed the ancient world, laying the groundwork for future civilizations. Next, we encounter Julius Caesar, the Roman leader whose ambition and strategic mind forever changed Rome. As we delve into Caesar's life, we'll uncover the brilliance and betrayal that led to both his rise and his tragic fall. Then, we'll move to the vibrant world of Cleopatra, the last pharaoh of Egypt. Known for her intelligence, charisma, and ability to navigate through the turmoil of Roman politics, Cleopatra remains an icon of strength and allure. Our journey takes us eastward to the vast Mongolian steppes, where Genghis Khan united the Mongol tribes and built an empire stretching across Asia. His story is one of resilience and an unbreakable will to conquer. As we whisper about Napoleon Bonaparte, the French emperor whose vision and daring shaped Europe, you'll discover a complex leader who rose from obscurity to become one of history's most influential figures. Crossing into the New World, we find George Washington, a man whose steady hand and profound dedication to freedom laid the foundation of the United States. Through whispers, we'll see how he transformed a vision of liberty into a lasting legacy. In England, Queen Elizabeth I ruled with wisdom and strength, leading our nation into a golden age. Known as the Virgin Queen, her rule was marked by peace, prosperity, and a flourishing of the arts. Venturing to the heart of nonviolent resistance, we'll explore the life of Mahatma Gandhi. His message of peace and justice transformed a nation, inspiring movements for freedom across the globe. Our journey wouldn't be complete without Winston Churchill, the British Prime Minister whose courage and determination lifted spirits during World War II. Through soft whispers, we'll uncover the resilience and tenacity that made him a beacon of hope. Finally, we'll end with Nelson Mandela, whose fight against apartheid in South Africa made him a symbol of unity and forgiveness. His life is a powerful reminder that even in the darkest times, one person's hope can change the course of history. Each of these leaders, with their unique strengths and challenges, have stories that continue to inspire. So, lean back, close your eyes, and let's begin our whispered journey through the lives of history's most famous leaders. Alexander the Great, conqueror of the ancient world. Alexander the Great's life is a journey of fierce ambition, monumental battles, and a vision for a world united under one rule. Born in 356 BCE in the Kingdom of Macedon, he was no ordinary child. From the start, Alexander was trained to think big, influenced by his father, King Philip II, who aimed to make Macedon a formidable power, and tutored by Aristotle, who opened his mind to philosophy, science, and literature. For Alexander, stories of legendary heroes like Achilles weren't just tales, they were guides, shaping his belief that he, too, was destined for greatness. At the age of 20, when Alexander ascended to the throne, he inherited not only his father's kingdom but his ambitious plans to invade the vast Persian Empire. Many saw this as a reckless dream, yet Alexander was driven by more than just a thirst for conquest. He wanted to leave a legacy that would echo through the ages. His first major victory was at the Battle of Granicus, where he faced Persian forces for the first time. Despite being outnumbered, Alexander's brilliant tactics and his fearless charge into battle set the tone for his future campaigns. This battle was a statement to the world. Alexander was not a king to be underestimated. As Alexander pushed into Asia Minor, his military skills and leadership grew. His bond with his soldiers was a key part of his success. Alexander didn't just lead, he lived alongside his men, sharing their hardships, eating the same rations, and marching the same miles. He was both a commander and a comrade, and this built a fierce loyalty among his troops. At the Battle of Issus, he faced the Persian king, Darius III, and despite overwhelming odds, Alexander's forces emerged victorious, pushing Darius to flee. This was no ordinary victory. It sent shockwaves across the ancient world and confirmed Alexander's reputation as an unstoppable force. But Alexander's journey was not just about conquest. In Egypt, he was welcomed as a liberator, and the Egyptians crowned him pharaoh. Here, he founded the city of Alexandria, a place he envisioned as a hub of culture, knowledge, and trade. Alexandria wasn't just another city, it was a symbol of his broader vision. He dreamed of a world where Greek ideas and local traditions could come together, creating something new and unified. For Alexander, conquering lands wasn't enough. He wanted to build a lasting legacy that would inspire future generations. However, Alexander's dream of unity came with challenges. As he adopted Persian customs, including wearing Persian robes and participating in their rituals, his Macedonian soldiers grew uneasy. They viewed these practices as betrayals of their Greek identity. Alexander's decision to incorporate Persian practices into his rule was his attempt to bridge East and West, but it also created a divide between him and his men. His decision to introduce the custom of proskynesis, bowing to the king, only deepened this divide. To the Persians, this was a sign of respect, but to the Greeks, it bordered on blasphemy. Alexander's determination to unify his empire was noble, but it came at the cost of loyalty from his own people. Alexander's ambition drove him further east, into the unknown lands of India. There, he faced the formidable King Porus at the Battle of the Hydaspes. This battle was different from anything Alexander had experienced before. Porus' army included war elephants, creatures that Alexander's soldiers had never seen. The battle was brutal, testing Alexander's tactical brilliance and the resilience of his troops. Despite the challenge, Alexander emerged victorious, but not without difficulty. Impressed by Porus' bravery, Alexander allowed him to continue ruling his territory, showing a rare moment of respect for a rival. It was gestures like these that revealed Alexander's admiration for strength and honor, qualities he held dear. But as they marched further, Alexander's men began to grow weary. They had followed him for thousands of miles, from the familiar lands of Greece to the exotic territories of Asia, and now they were exhausted. They longed to return home, to see their families and live in peace. Alexander, though reluctant, understood their fatigue and agreed to turn back. This decision marked the end of his conquests, but also the beginning of his contemplation for new campaigns. When Alexander returned to Babylon, he began planning for the future, dreaming of further exploration and conquest. However, his health was failing. In 323 BCE, Alexander fell ill in Babylon, and despite the best efforts of his doctors, he did not recover. He was only 32 years old, yet he had built one of the largest empires the world had ever seen. His death left his empire in chaos as his generals divided his territories and his dream of a united world quickly faded. The empire he left behind fragmented, but his influence endured. Through the cities he founded and the cultures he connected, Alexander's legacy continued. The Hellenistic period that followed his conquests was a time of cultural fusion where Greek and Eastern traditions merged, leading to advancements in art, science, and philosophy. Alexandria in Egypt became a beacon of learning, its library a symbol of knowledge and intellectual pursuit. Alexander's influence extended far beyond his lifetime, shaping civilizations for centuries. Alexander the Great remains one of history's most compelling figures. To some, he is a hero who expanded the known world, bringing cultures together and inspiring generations. To others, he is a ruthless conqueror whose ambition led to destruction and suffering. Perhaps he was both. Alexander's story is a reminder that greatness often comes with sacrifice and that ambition, while inspiring, can have a heavy price. In the end, Alexander's life was not just a journey of conquest but a quest for legacy. He wanted to create a world where East met West, where knowledge and culture flowed freely across borders. Julius Caesar, Rome's powerful dictator. Julius Caesar was more than a military genius. He was a visionary whose actions reshaped Rome and laid the foundations of the Roman Empire. Born in 100 BCE to a prominent yet financially strained family, Caesar's early life was marked by political upheaval and social unrest in the Roman Republic. From an early age, Caesar was ambitious, charismatic, and fiercely intelligent, traits that would guide him as he rose to prominence in Rome's complex political landscape. As a young man, Caesar quickly made a name for himself. He showed bravery and skill on the battlefield, gaining the loyalty and admiration of his troops. His political ambitions took shape as he allied with two influential figures, Pompey the Great, a celebrated military leader, and Crassus, the wealthiest man in Rome. Together, they formed the First Triumvirate, a powerful alliance that allowed Caesar to secure the role of consul, a high-ranking official in the Roman Republic. However, Caesar's ambition far exceeded the bounds of traditional Roman politics. He dreamed not only of power but of lasting change for Rome. After his term as consul, Caesar was appointed governor of Gaul, where he embarked on a military campaign that would define his legacy. For nearly a decade, Caesar led his legions across Gaul, facing fierce resistance from local tribes. His conquest was brutal and efficient, showcasing his tactical brilliance. Caesar's victories in Gaul brought immense wealth and prestige, and his writings about the Gallic Wars, Commentaria de Bello Gallico, revealed his strategic mind and his ability to connect with the Roman people. Through his dispatches, he depicted himself as a hero of Rome, fighting for its glory and expansion. By the time his campaign in Gaul concluded, Caesar's fame had reached legendary status, and he was no longer just a powerful leader, he was a figure who inspired both admiration and fear. However, Caesar's rising power created tension in Rome, particularly with Pompey, who had once been his ally but now saw him as a threat. The Roman Senate, wary of Caesar's influence, ordered him to disband his army and return to Rome. Defying this order, Caesar made a fateful decision that would change the course of history. In 49 BCE, he led his army across the Rubicon River, famously declaring, "The die is cast." This act was considered an open declaration of war against the Senate and Pompey. Caesar's march on Rome was swift and decisive, forcing Pompey and his supporters to flee. Over the next few years, Caesar pursued Pompey across the Mediterranean, ultimately defeating him and solidifying his control over Rome. When he returned to the city, Caesar was hailed as a hero and named dictator for life. But he wasn't content with mere titles. He implemented sweeping reforms aimed at stabilizing the Republic. Caesar restructured the Senate, expanded citizenship to many people in the provinces, and initiated public works projects to address Rome's social and economic issues. His reforms were popular with the common people but controversial among the elite, who feared he was dismantling the foundations of the Republic in favor of personal rule. Caesar's rule, though transformative, was also marked by growing opposition. Many senators saw him as a tyrant, someone who had subverted Rome's republican ideals for his own gain. Despite his popularity with the masses, Caesar's concentration of power made him a target for those who believed he was a threat to Rome's long-standing traditions. This opposition culminated in the infamous Ides of March, on March 15, 44 BCE. A group of senators, including some of Caesar's closest allies, conspired to assassinate him, hoping to restore the Republic by eliminating its most powerful figure. In a tragic twist, Caesar was ambushed in the Senate and stabbed multiple times, a betrayal immortalized by the famous phrase "Et tu, brute?" His death sent shockwaves through Rome and ignited a series of civil wars that ultimately led to the end of the Roman Republic. Ironically, the senators who sought to preserve the Republic through his assassination only hastened its collapse. In the aftermath, Caesar's adopted heir, Octavian, emerged victorious, and Rome transformed into an empire under the rule of emperors, beginning with Octavian, later known as Augustus. Julius Caesar's life is a story of ambition, vision, and tragedy. He was a leader who defied tradition, challenged the powerful, and sought to reshape Rome in his image. For some, he was a hero, a champion of the people who fought for justice and equality. For others, he was a dictator whose ambition threatened the very core of Roman values. In the end, Caesar's legacy is one of complexity. He was both a visionary and a conqueror, a reformer and a ruler who would stop at nothing to achieve his goals. His life and death marked a turning point in history, setting the stage for the rise of the Roman Empire and leaving a legacy that has fascinated historians, artists, and storytellers for centuries. Today, Julius Caesar remains one of the most iconic figures in history, a symbol of power and ambition whose story continues to captivate the world. Cleopatra, the last pharaoh of Egypt. Cleopatra's story is one of intelligence, charm, and resilience. Born in 69 BCE, Cleopatra VII ascended to the throne of Egypt at a young age, inheriting a kingdom rich in culture and history but plagued by political instability. Unlike other rulers of her time, Cleopatra was not just a figurehead. She was highly educated, fluent in multiple languages, and deeply knowledgeable in politics, philosophy, and science. Her intelligence and charm set her apart, making her a formidable leader in a male-dominated world. Cleopatra's reign was marked by a period of intense struggle. Egypt, though wealthy, was under constant pressure from Rome, the rising superpower. Cleopatra knew that maintaining Egypt's independence required careful diplomacy and strategic alliances. Her first major alliance came through her famous relationship with Julius Caesar. When Caesar arrived in Egypt, Cleopatra seized the opportunity to meet him in a legendary encounter. Legend has it, she smuggled herself into his quarters rolled up in a carpet. This dramatic entrance captivated Caesar, and the two formed a powerful alliance, both politically and romantically. With Caesar's support, Cleopatra solidified her position as Egypt's ruler. Together, they had a son, Caesar, whom she hoped would eventually inherit both Egypt and Rome, creating a powerful dynasty. Cleopatra's relationship with Caesar brought stability to her kingdom, and she ruled with intelligence and ambition. She dreamed of a united empire, one that could stand strong against Rome's influence. However, her hopes were shattered with Caesar's assassination in 44 BCE. The power vacuum left by Caesar's death placed Cleopatra in a precarious position once again. Following Caesar's death, Cleopatra aligned herself with Mark Antony, one of Rome's most powerful generals and a member of the Second Triumvirate. Antony was captivated by Cleopatra's charm, intelligence, and regal bearing. Their relationship was both strategic and passionate, as they shared a vision of a powerful Eastern empire that could rival Rome. Together, they had 3 children, further strengthening their bond. Antony moved to Alexandria to be with Cleopatra, and the two ruled over a vast territory, dreaming of reshaping the ancient world. However, their alliance and love affair made them powerful enemies in Rome. Octavian, Caesar's adopted heir and Antony's rival, saw Cleopatra as a threat to Rome's stability. He launched a campaign to discredit Antony and Cleopatra, portraying her as a seductive and dangerous foreign queen who had corrupted Antony. This propaganda proved effective, and soon Rome was at war with Antony and Cleopatra. The final confrontation came at the Battle of Actium in 31 BCE. Octavian's forces defeated Antony and Cleopatra's fleet, marking the beginning of the end for the last pharaoh of Egypt. Retreating to Alexandria, the lovers made a final stand. Facing imminent defeat, Antony took his own life. Cleopatra, determined not to be paraded as a trophy in Octavian's victory, chose to end her life as well. According to legend, she allowed herself to be bitten by an asp, a symbol of Egyptian royalty, thus dying on her own terms. Cleopatra's death marked the end of the Ptolemaic dynasty and the beginning of Egypt's absorption into the Roman Empire. Yet, her legacy endured. Cleopatra was more than a queen, she was a symbol of strength, intelligence, and resilience in the face of overwhelming odds. Her story has captivated the world for centuries, inspiring countless works of art, literature, and drama. Cleopatra's life reminds us of the power of charisma, intelligence, and strategic alliances. She was a ruler who defied expectations, wielded power in a man's world, and left an indelible mark on history. Her legacy endures as a testament to the strength and complexity of one of history's most remarkable leaders. Genghis Khan, the Mongol conqueror. Genghis Khan, born as Temujin in 1162 on the harsh steppes of Mongolia, transformed from an outcast to one of the most feared and revered conquerors in history. His life is a story of resilience, tactical genius, and an unyielding drive to unite the Mongol tribes and expand their influence far beyond the borders of their homeland. Growing up in a tribal society marked by constant warfare, Temujin faced hardship from a young age. After his father's murder, his family was abandoned by their tribe, and young Temujin learned early the importance of loyalty, strength, and survival. The turning point in Temujin's life came when he managed to unite the Mongol tribes, a feat thought impossible given the intense rivalries and complex alliances of the steppe. Through both strategic alliances and formidable combat skills, he brought together once warring tribes under his leadership. In 1206, he was proclaimed Genghis Khan, meaning universal ruler. From that moment, he set his sights on a grander goal, the creation of a vast empire that would stretch across Asia and into Europe. Genghis Khan's military campaigns were defined by his innovative tactics, adaptability, and sheer ferocity. His army was highly disciplined and mobile, composed mainly of skilled horsemen who could cover incredible distances in short periods. He developed a unique strategy of psychological warfare, spreading fear before battle by allowing rumors of his brutality to terrify enemy forces. However, Genghis Khan was not just a warrior, he was also a brilliant strategist who understood the importance of intelligence, logistics, and technology in warfare. One of his earliest major conquests was against the powerful Khwarezm Empire. After an initial attempt at peaceful trade was met with betrayal, Genghis Khan launched a devastating campaign that obliterated the Khwarezmian forces. His army showed no mercy, destroying cities and sowing fear across the region. Yet, despite his often ruthless methods, Genghis Khan valued loyalty and rewarded those who joined him. He also had a unique approach to integrating conquered people, allowing talented individuals from diverse backgrounds to serve in his administration, which helped stabilize his rapidly expanding empire. Genghis Khan's empire was not just built on conquest, it was built on a foundation of laws and a vision for a unified world. He implemented the Yasa, a legal code that promoted loyalty, order, and discipline within his empire. He understood that an empire is vast as his needed structure and stability, so he emphasized meritocracy, promoting individuals based on ability rather than birth. This approach helped ensure the loyalty of his generals and allowed talented individuals from all backgrounds to contribute to the empire's success. One of the most remarkable aspects of Genghis Khan's rule was his respect for different cultures and religions. Though his armies brought destruction, he also promoted trade, communication, and cultural exchange across his empire. Under his rule, the Silk Road was protected, allowing merchants, scholars, and travelers to move between Asia, the Middle East, and Europe. This exchange of goods and ideas helped connect distant cultures and left a lasting impact on world history. As Genghis Khan's empire grew, so did his legacy. By the time of his death in 1227, he had established the largest contiguous land empire in history, stretching from the Pacific Ocean to the Caspian Sea. His sons and grandsons continued his legacy, further expanding the empire and shaping the course of history in Asia and beyond. However, Genghis Khan's conquests came at a great human cost, and his name became synonymous with terror in many regions. Yet, to others, he remains a symbol of strength, unity, and the power of the Mongol spirit. Genghis Khan's life is a testament to the power of resilience, vision, and leadership. He was a man who overcame incredible odds, transforming himself from an outcast to a ruler of one of the greatest empires the world has ever known. His legacy endures in the form of the cultural, economic, and political impact of the Mongol Empire. For better or worse, Genghis Khan reshaped the world, and his story continues to captivate and inspire to this day. Napoleon Bonaparte, Emperor of the French. Napoleon Bonaparte's life is one of dramatic rise and fall, marked by ambition, brilliance, and a relentless drive for power. Born on the island of Corsica in 1769, Napoleon came from modest beginnings but rose to become one of the most influential figures in European history. His journey to power was rapid, driven by his exceptional talent as a military strategist and leader. By the age of 24, he was already a general, and his rise to fame continued as he led the French army to victories across Europe, quickly earning him respect and fear alike. Napoleon's career took off during the French Revolution, a period of turmoil and change in France. Amid the chaos, Napoleon's military successes made him a hero in the eyes of the French people. His campaign in Italy, where he defeated the Austrian forces, established him as a military genius. Napoleon's methods were revolutionary. He emphasized speed, surprise, and the use of concentrated artillery. He inspired his troops not only through his tactical skill but also through his presence. Napoleon was known for leading from the front, sharing in the hardships of his soldiers. In 1799, Napoleon seized power in a coup, establishing himself as first consul, and later, in 1804, he crowned himself Emperor of the French. His ambition was now clear. He wanted to build an empire that would rival Rome itself. Under his rule, Napoleon transformed France, implementing significant reforms that shaped modern Europe. His Napoleonic Code, a comprehensive set of laws, promoted ideas of equality, freedom of religion, and merit-based advancement. These laws became the foundation for modern legal systems in many countries, and Napoleon's influence on civil law continues to be felt today. Napoleon's quest for power led him into a series of wars known as the Napoleonic Wars, which would dominate Europe for over a decade. His victories were numerous, and his empire expanded rapidly. At its peak, Napoleon's rule extended across much of continental Europe, from Spain to Poland. His military campaigns were marked by brilliant tactics, particularly at battles such as Austerlitz, where his strategic mastery led to a decisive victory against Russian and Austrian forces. However, his ambitions also set him on a collision course with other European powers who saw him as a threat to the balance of power. But Napoleon's ambition eventually became his downfall. In 1812, he launched an invasion of Russia, a campaign that would prove disastrous. The Russian winter, combined with fierce resistance, decimated his army. Out of the 600,000 soldiers who entered Russia, only a fraction returned. This devastating loss marked the beginning of the end for Napoleon's empire. Weakened and vulnerable, Napoleon faced a coalition of European powers that sought to end his rule. In 1814, Napoleon was forced to abdicate and was exiled to the island of Elba. But his story didn't end there. In 1815, he escaped from Elba and returned to France, rallying his supporters in what became known as the 100 Days. Once again, he took control of France, but his comeback was short-lived. At the Battle of Waterloo, he faced a coalition of British and Prussian forces. Despite his tactical brilliance, he was defeated, marking the final end of his rule. Napoleon was exiled once more, this time to the remote island of St. Helena, where he spent the last years of his life in relative isolation. Napoleon's impact on history is immense. He was a military genius who reshaped Europe through his campaigns, but he was also a reformer whose vision extended beyond conquest. His legal reforms, administrative changes, and support for education laid the groundwork for modern Europe. He inspired loyalty and admiration among his followers, yet he also sparked fear and resistance among his enemies. Napoleon's life is a story of contradictions. He was both a symbol of progress and an instrument of war, a champion of Enlightenment ideals and an emperor who sought absolute power. Napoleon Bonaparte's legacy is complex and enduring. He remains one of the most studied figures in history, a leader who redefined the nature of power and influence in Europe. For some, he is a hero who modernized France and promoted ideals of equality and justice. For others, he is a conqueror whose ambition led to countless wars and immense suffering. In the end, Napoleon's story serves as a reminder of both the potential and the peril of unchecked ambition, and his life continues to captivate and inspire, embodying the heights and limits of human achievement. George Washington, Father of the United States. George Washington is often called the father of his country, a title that reflects not just his leadership during the American Revolution, but his role in shaping the United States in its earliest days. Born in 1732 in Virginia to a modest plantation family, Washington's journey to becoming one of history's most respected leaders was marked by perseverance, humility, and a deep sense of duty to his country. Despite the challenges he faced, Washington's life and legacy are a testament to his unwavering commitment to the ideals of liberty and unity. Washington's military career began during the French and Indian War, where he gained valuable experience and recognition for his bravery. Yet, it was during the American Revolution that he would become a true hero. In 1775, Washington was appointed Commander-in-Chief of the Continental Army. Leading a relatively inexperienced and poorly equipped army against the powerful British forces, Washington demonstrated incredible resilience and strategic skill. His ability to inspire his troops, even during difficult times, was a cornerstone of his leadership. One of Washington's greatest achievements during the Revolution was the crossing of the Delaware River in 1776, a daring move that led to a crucial victory at the Battle of Trenton. This victory reinvigorated the morale of the American forces and marked a turning point in the war. Washington's leadership was not only about strategy but also about leading by example. He shared the hardships of his soldiers, famously enduring the harsh winter at Valley Forge alongside his men, which earned him the loyalty and admiration of his troops. After the war, Washington faced a new challenge: building a nation. Many wanted him to become a king or hold lifelong power, but Washington was committed to democratic principles. In 1787, he presided over the Constitutional Convention, where the U.S. Constitution was drafted, establishing a framework for governance based on checks and balances. Washington's influence helped create a document that balanced power while protecting individual rights. In 1789, Washington became the first president of the United States, serving 2 terms. As president, he set many precedents, including the tradition of stepping down after 2 terms, establishing a peaceful transfer of power that became a hallmark of American democracy. Washington's presidency focused on stabilizing the young nation, including establishing a national bank, creating a stable currency, and navigating conflicts with European powers through neutrality, which he believed was essential to protect the fledgling country. Despite his deep patriotism, Washington recognized the flaws in America's emerging society, including the issue of slavery. Though he owned enslaved people at his Mount Vernon estate, he expressed private discomfort with the institution and, in his will, ordered that his enslaved individuals be freed upon his wife's death. This action reflected his belief in the principles of liberty, even if he couldn't fully address the complexities of slavery in his time. Washington's farewell address in 1796 emphasized unity, warning against political divisions and entanglements with foreign nations. His words echoed his lifelong belief in the importance of a unified nation and a democratic system. He urged Americans to prioritize national interest over regional loyalties or partisan disputes, words that remain relevant to this day. Washington's legacy endures as a symbol of integrity, leadership, and the democratic ideals on which the United States was founded. He was a leader who could have taken absolute power but chose to step down, setting an example of humility and service. For Americans, Washington is more than a historical figure. He is a symbol of the enduring strength and principles of their country. Mahatma Gandhi, leader of nonviolent resistance. Mahatma Gandhi, often remembered as the father of nonviolent resistance, led one of the most influential movements for freedom in history. Born in 1869 in Porbandar, India, Gandhi grew up in a traditional Hindu family that valued morality, humility, and community. From a young age, he showed a strong sense of justice, which became a defining aspect of his life's work. After studying law in London, he embarked on a career that would eventually change not only India but also the global fight for justice and human rights. His transformation from a young lawyer into a global icon for peace began in South Africa. In 1893, Gandhi accepted a position as a legal advisor in South Africa, then part of the British Empire. There, he experienced blatant racial discrimination, a turning point in his life. One event that changed him profoundly was being thrown off a train for sitting in a whites-only compartment despite holding a first-class ticket. This experience sparked a resolve in Gandhi to stand against injustice. Over the next 20 years, he led campaigns in South Africa to secure civil rights for Indian immigrants, introducing a philosophy called satyagraha, or truth force, which emphasized nonviolent resistance to tyranny. Upon his return to India in 1915, Gandhi was already a respected figure. However, he was soon to become the symbol of India's struggle for independence. At this time, India was under British colonial rule, and many Indians were eager for change but unsure how to achieve it. Gandhi's approach was revolutionary. He advocated for ahimsa, or nonviolence, combined with civil disobedience. He encouraged Indians to peacefully refuse to comply with unjust British laws, believing that moral force could be more powerful than violence. One of Gandhi's earliest campaigns in India was in Champaran, where he organized protests for farmers oppressed by British planters. This success laid the groundwork for his leadership in the larger independence movement. Gandhi encouraged Indians to adopt Swadeshi, or self-reliance, urging them to boycott British goods, particularly textiles, and to make their own cloth through hand spinning. This movement was more than economic, it was symbolic, a way for Indians to reclaim their independence in daily life. Gandhi himself adopted simple clothing made of homespun cloth, embodying the values he preached. This image of Gandhi, draped in a simple dhoti, became a powerful symbol of resistance and solidarity with the poor. One of Gandhi's most famous acts of civil disobedience was the Salt March of 1930. The British government's monopoly on salt production and its tax on the essential mineral affected every Indian, rich or poor. Gandhi saw this as an opportunity to unite the people. Along with a group of followers, he embarked on a 240-mile march to the Arabian Sea, where he illegally made salt by evaporating seawater. This act was simple, yet it resonated deeply with people across the country and garnered international attention. The Salt March demonstrated Gandhi's ability to turn simple acts into powerful political statements, and it became a turning point in the fight for Indian independence. As the movement gained momentum, Gandhi became known as Bapu, or Father, a title given to him by his followers. His nonviolent approach inspired millions, but he faced significant challenges, particularly from those who favored more aggressive tactics. He also had to confront the divisions within Indian society, especially between Hindus and Muslims. Gandhi believed deeply in unity, viewing India's diversity as a strength. However, religious tensions continued to grow, and the idea of a separate Muslim state became increasingly popular, leading eventually to the partition of India and the creation of Pakistan. Gandhi was heartbroken by the partition, as he had dreamed of a united India. Even so, he worked tirelessly to promote peace between the two communities, often fasting to protest violence and advocate for reconciliation. Gandhi's influence reached far beyond India's borders. His principles of nonviolence inspired figures like Martin Luther King Jr., who adapted Gandhi's teachings to the American Civil Rights Movement, and Nelson Mandela, who later used similar methods in the struggle against apartheid in South Africa. Gandhi's philosophy of nonviolent resistance, which he refined over decades, became a guiding principle for social and political movements worldwide. Despite his success, Gandhi was not without critics. Some argued that his approach was too idealistic or too slow, especially in a world where colonial powers were ruthless. Others felt he didn't address economic inequality within India itself, or that he relied too heavily on personal sacrifices like fasting to influence public opinion. Gandhi himself was aware of these criticisms and believed in the importance of self-reflection, admitting when he thought he could have done better. His humility, even in the face of enormous influence, was part of what made him a beloved leader. The final chapter of Gandhi's life was one of profound sadness. Following India's independence in 1947, communal violence erupted, especially between Hindus and Muslims. Gandhi spent his last months traveling through areas affected by the violence, fasting and praying for peace. His dedication to unity remained steadfast, even as he faced hostility from extremists who opposed his vision of harmony. Tragically, on January 30, 1948, Gandhi was assassinated by a Hindu nationalist who disagreed with his principles of tolerance and inclusion. Gandhi's death shocked the world, but his legacy endured. He left behind a philosophy that transcended his own lifetime, a belief in the power of truth, compassion, and the ability of ordinary people to bring about extraordinary change through peaceful means. His commitment to satyagraha and ahimsa remains a source of inspiration for those who seek to challenge injustice without violence. Winston Churchill, voice of strength in World War II. Winston Churchill, one of the most iconic figures of the 20th century, is remembered as the unyielding leader who guided Britain through the darkest days of World War II. Born in 1874 to an aristocratic family, Churchill had a complex and colorful personality, marked by resilience, intelligence, and a fierce dedication to his country. Despite early struggles in school and a rocky start to his career, Churchill's determination and sense of destiny propelled him into the center of British politics. Churchill's political career was far from straightforward. Known for his outspoken nature, he held various positions, often switching political parties as he navigated the volatile landscape of British politics. His early years included service as First Lord of the Admiralty during World War I, where he faced both successes and failures. However, it was his warnings in the 1930s about the rise of Adolf Hitler and Nazi Germany that began to solidify his role as a visionary. While others underestimated the Nazi threat, Churchill was vocal about the need to prepare for war, a stance that was initially unpopular but later proved prophetic. When World War II broke out in 1939, Churchill's steadfast resolve became invaluable. In May 1940, as Britain faced the threat of invasion, Churchill was appointed Prime Minister. He took over during a critical time. Nazi forces had conquered much of Europe, and Britain stood largely alone against Hitler's war machine. Churchill's response was one of defiance. In his first speech as Prime Minister, he famously declared, "I have nothing to offer but blood, toil, tears, and sweat," setting the tone for a nation that would endure great hardship. Churchill's speeches became legendary, galvanizing a nation facing relentless bombing and the looming possibility of invasion. His words weren't just political, they were deeply emotional and tapped into the spirit of the British people. His "We shall fight on the beaches" speech, delivered after the evacuation of Dunkirk, remains one of the most powerful addresses in history, embodying his refusal to surrender. Churchill understood the power of words and used them masterfully to unite and inspire, giving hope to a population battered by war. Churchill's leadership during the Battle of Britain was critical. His coordination with the Royal Air Force, RAF, helped Britain resist the Luftwaffe's bombing campaign. Churchill worked closely with military strategists and placed his trust in the RAF, famously praising them with, "Never in the field of human conflict was so much owed by so many to so few." This battle marked a turning point as Britain's resilience thwarted Hitler's plans for an invasion. Beyond his speeches and military strategy, Churchill's influence extended to building alliances. Understanding that Britain could not win the war alone, he fostered a crucial relationship with the United States. His friendship with President Franklin D. Roosevelt was instrumental in securing American support, which ultimately turned the tide of the war. The Lend-Lease Act, which provided Britain with vital resources, was a direct result of Churchill's diplomatic efforts. Later, with the attack on Pearl Harbor in 1941, the United States formally entered the war, solidifying the Allied powers. Churchill also played a key role in the planning of major Allied operations, working with Roosevelt and Soviet leader Joseph Stalin to coordinate the war effort. Despite ideological differences, Churchill recognized the necessity of cooperation with the Soviet Union to defeat the Axis powers. His involvement in the Tehran, Yalta, and Potsdam conferences helped shape the post-war world, though he remained wary of Soviet intentions. Churchill's strategic mind and diplomatic skills contributed significantly to the Allied victory, securing his place as a leading figure in one of history's most important conflicts. However, Churchill's career was not without setbacks. Despite his role in leading Britain through the war, he faced political defeat in 1945 when his party lost the general election. The British people, exhausted from years of conflict, saw a leader who could address domestic issues, and Churchill's focus on the war effort left him disconnected from these concerns. Though disappointed, Churchill graciously accepted the loss, continuing to serve as a prominent figure in British politics. In 1951, Churchill made a surprising comeback, returning as Prime Minister for a second term. During this time, he focused on Britain's post-war recovery and dealt with the emerging Cold War tensions between the United States and the Soviet Union. In a famous 1946 speech delivered in Missouri, Churchill warned of an Iron Curtain descending across Europe, coining a term that defined the Cold War era. His insights into Soviet expansionism and his warnings about the dangers of communism influenced Western policy for years to come. Throughout his life, Churchill was known for his resilience, wit, and indomitable spirit. Despite health challenges in his later years, including strokes, he continued to write, paint, and inspire those around him. In 1953, he was awarded the Nobel Prize in Literature for his historical writings and memoirs, which provided a vivid account of his experiences and insights during the war. Churchill's legacy is complex. While he is celebrated for his wartime leadership, his career included controversies such as his stance on colonial issues and his sometimes blunt approach. However, his dedication to democracy, freedom, and his fierce opposition to totalitarianism remain defining aspects of his character. His words, leadership, and vision helped shape the course of history during one of humanity's most challenging times. Winston Churchill's life is a testament to courage, resilience, and the power of words. He inspired a nation to stand firm in the face of overwhelming odds, showing the world that even in its darkest hour, the human spirit could endure. Nelson Mandela, symbol of freedom and unity. Nelson Mandela is celebrated worldwide as a symbol of freedom, resilience, and unity. Born in 1918 in the rural village of Mvezo, South Africa, Mandela grew up with strong cultural values and a deep sense of justice. He was part of the Themba royal family and was given the name Rolilila, meaning pulling the branch of a tree, or, colloquially, troublemaker, a fitting name for a man who would go on to challenge one of the most oppressive systems of racial segregation in history. Mandela's journey from a rural boy to South Africa's first black president and a global icon of human rights is one of remarkable courage, sacrifice, and perseverance. Mandela began his legal and political career in Johannesburg, where he witnessed the harsh realities of apartheid, a system of institutionalized racial discrimination enforced by the South African government. Black South Africans were denied basic rights, forced into poverty, and subjected to violence by the state. Motivated by the injustice around him, Mandela joined the African National Congress (ANC) in 1944, becoming an active member in the struggle for freedom and equality. In the early years, Mandela and the ANC initially pursued a policy of peaceful protest and negotiation, organizing nonviolent demonstrations and petitions. However, the government responded with brutal force, enacting laws to tighten its grip on the black population. In 1960, after a peaceful protest in Sharpeville was met with violence, leaving 69 dead and many injured, Mandela's approach shifted. He helped establish Umkhonto we Sizwe, Spear of the Nation, a militant wing of the ANC dedicated to sabotage and armed resistance against the apartheid regime. This marked a turning point, as Mandela believed that peaceful resistance alone was no longer sufficient to bring about change. In 1962, Mandela was arrested and sentenced to life in prison in 1964. His trial was highly publicized, and his powerful closing statement resonated worldwide. "I have fought against white domination, and I have fought against black domination. I have cherished the ideal of a democratic and free society. It is an ideal for which I am prepared to die." Mandela spent 27 years in prison, mostly on Robben Island, where he endured harsh conditions and forced labor. Yet, he remained resilient, using his time to educate himself and other prisoners, keeping his hope for a free South Africa alive. His imprisonment became a symbol of the struggle against apartheid, garnering international support and sparking global anti-apartheid movements. During his time in prison, Mandela's influence only grew. Calls for his release echoed around the world, with activists, politicians, and ordinary people demanding justice. The apartheid government, facing increasing internal resistance and international pressure, began negotiations in the late 1980s. In 1990, under President F.W. de Klerk, the South African government finally released Mandela, marking the beginning of a new era for South Africa. Mandela's release was met with celebration and hope, yet his work was far from over. Rather than seeking revenge, Mandela advocated for reconciliation, understanding that a peaceful transition was crucial for South Africa's future. In 1993, Mandela and de Klerk were jointly awarded the Nobel Peace Prize for their efforts in dismantling apartheid and setting the stage for a democratic South Africa. In 1994, South Africa held its first multiracial democratic elections, and Nelson Mandela was elected as the nation's first black president. His election marked a triumph for human rights and justice. Mandela's presidency was characterized by his commitment to healing the country's deep wounds. He introduced policies focused on racial reconciliation, economic reform, and social justice. One of his most notable initiatives was the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, which allowed perpetrators of apartheid-era crimes to come forward, confront their actions, and seek amnesty in exchange for honesty. This groundbreaking approach promoted healing and unity, helping South Africa move forward without falling into cycles of revenge. Mandela's influence extended far beyond South Africa's borders. He became a global advocate for peace, equality, and human rights, speaking out against oppression wherever it existed. His philosophy of forgiveness, resilience, and inclusivity inspired people worldwide and set an example of leadership grounded in moral principles. Even after stepping down from the presidency in 1999, Mandela continued his activism, working on issues like HIV/AIDS awareness and poverty alleviation. However, Mandela's legacy is not without complexity. South Africa continued to struggle with economic disparity, and while Mandela laid the foundation for equality, many of the country's systemic issues remain today. Yet, Mandela's leadership demonstrated that even the most entrenched systems of oppression could be challenged and that change could be achieved without resorting to violence. His life and work have become a symbol of hope and the power of reconciliation. Nelson Mandela's legacy lives on as a reminder of what one person's vision, resilience, and compassion can achieve. His story inspires millions to fight for justice, stand against oppression, and pursue a world where all people live with dignity and freedom. Mustafa Kemal Atatürk, founder of modern Turkey. Mustafa Kemal Atatürk, the founder of the Republic of Turkey, is celebrated for his role in transforming a weakened Ottoman Empire into a modern, secular, and progressive nation-state. Born in 1881 in Salonika, now Thessaloniki, Greece, Ataturk grew up in a time of intense social and political instability, with the Ottoman Empire struggling to maintain its influence. These early experiences of witnessing his homeland's decline shaped his future vision for a sovereign, modern, and independent Turkey. Ataturk's early life was marked by his strong intellect and determination. He attended military school, where his leadership skills quickly became apparent. Serving in the Ottoman army, Ataturk rose through the ranks, gaining respect for his strategic brilliance and dedication. It was during World War I, however, that he emerged as a national hero. The Gallipoli campaign of 1915 marked a turning point in his career. As a young commander, he successfully led Turkish forces against the Allied invasion, achieving a crucial victory and inspiring the Turkish people. His famous order, "I am not ordering you to attack, I am ordering you to die," reflects the commitment and resilience that would later define his leadership. After the defeat of the Ottoman Empire in World War I, the Allied powers occupied key Ottoman territories and imposed the Treaty of Sèvres, which sought to partition the empire. Mustafa Kemal rejected the terms of this treaty, believing that it undermined Turkish sovereignty. In 1919, he began a national resistance movement, rallying Turks from all backgrounds to fight for independence. He established the Grand National Assembly in 1920, setting up a new government in Ankara that directly opposed the Ottoman Sultan's rule and rejected foreign occupation. The Turkish War of Independence, led by Ataturk, was a defining period for the nation. Between 1919 and 1923, Turkish forces fought against Greek, British, French, and Italian forces, eventually securing Turkey's borders. In 1923, the Treaty of Lausanne formally recognized the Republic of Turkey as an independent state, marking the end of the Ottoman Empire. On October 29, 1923, Mustafa Kemal was elected as the Republic's first president, ushering in a new era for the Turkish people. Ataturk's vision extended beyond military victory. He aimed to build a modern, secular, and unified nation. He implemented a series of radical reforms to achieve this transformation. One of his first actions was to abolish the caliphate and separate religion from government, establishing a secular state. He believed that religion should not influence politics and viewed secularism as essential to Turkey's modernization. Ataturk replaced Islamic courts with secular laws based on European legal systems and closed religious schools, promoting instead a secular educational framework. Education was a cornerstone of Ataturk's reforms. Recognizing the importance of literacy for a modern society, he introduced the Latin alphabet in 1928, replacing the Arabic script. This change made reading and writing more accessible, helping to increase literacy rates across the country. He also modernized the curriculum, emphasizing science, mathematics, and history to prepare Turkish youth for a rapidly changing world. Ataturk was also a strong advocate for women's rights, championing equality at a time when it was rare. Under his leadership, Turkish women gained the right to vote and run for office, making Turkey one of the first countries to extend these rights to women. Ataturk believed that a modern society required gender equality, and he encouraged women to participate in all areas of life, including education and the workforce. His commitment to women's rights laid the groundwork for gender equality in Turkey, inspiring generations of Turkish women. Economically, Ataturk focused on self-sufficiency and reducing foreign dependency. He promoted industrialization and infrastructure projects, aiming to create a robust economy capable of supporting a sovereign nation. He established state-owned enterprises and encouraged private enterprise, fostering a mixed economy that combined state involvement with individual initiative. Ataturk's economic policies helped lay the foundation for Turkey's future growth and stability. Ataturk's leadership style was marked by discipline, charisma, and dedication. He led by example, adopting Western attire, embracing scientific thought, and encouraging a modern lifestyle. His reforms were sometimes controversial, especially among traditionalists who resisted change. However, his determination and vision won the respect and loyalty of the Turkish people, who saw him as a father figure committed to their progress and well-being. While Ataturk's achievements are widely celebrated, his legacy is not without complexity. His rapid reforms occasionally clashed with traditional values, and his emphasis on secularism sparked debates about the role of religion in Turkish society. Nonetheless, his contributions to Turkey's transformation are undeniable. By the time of his death in 1938, he had laid the groundwork for a resilient, independent, and progressive Turkey, reshaping the country's identity and inspiring a sense of national pride. Today, Mustafa Kemal Atatürk's legacy endures as a symbol of resilience, progress, and commitment to the ideals of independence and equality. His philosophy, known as Kemalism, continues to influence Turkish politics and culture. Ataturk's life serves as a powerful reminder of the impact that visionary leadership can have on a nation's destiny, inspiring future generations to pursue progress, unity, and national pride.